Behind the Built Environment, the podcast from BESA, the UK's leading trade body for the building engineering services sector.
Hello, I'm David Frise, Chief Executive of BESA. Welcome to Behind the Built Environment, the podcast where I delve into the major issues facing our industry through in-depth conversations with key industry leaders. Join us as we explore the trends, challenges, and innovations shaping the future of the built environment. And today we welcome Amos Simbo OBE. He is the founder of the BPIC network and Winway group and recently joined City and Guilds as an industry board member for construction. With a background in mechanical engineering from Loughborough University, Amos began his career as a trainee projects engineer before rising through the ranks to become a technical services manager. In 2019, he launched the BPIC network, a built environment inclusion organisation focused on improving ethnic minority representation, retention, and support for minority-led businesses. It now has over 15,000 members and 45 industry partners. BPIC delivers career guidance, training, and events to support and inspire talent across the sector. Amos also runs Winway Group, a growing M&E specialist contractor in London. Originally a small design consultancy, Winway has evolved into a key player in mechanical and electrical installations, with ambitions to scale across the UK by delivering sustainable, expert-led solutions. Welcome, Amos.
Thank you so much for the introduction, David.
Absolute pleasure. And you know the format of this, so we start off with 5 quick-fire questions, which require a yes and no, which sounds simple, is not so easy. The first one, has Donald Trump killed DEI?
No.
Do you believe the construction industry is making progress on diversity and inclusion?
Yes.
Is lack of representation a barrier for young people from ethnic minority backgrounds entering the sector?
Yes.
Can greater diversity improve innovation and performance in engineering and construction businesses?
Yes.
Should all companies have a dedicated strategy for recruiting from underrepresented groups?
Yes.
And do you think visibility of diverse role models can genuinely influence career choices?
Yes.
Excellent. You passed that bit with flying colours. Can you start off by telling us a bit about how you came into the industry, what drives you, and a bit about Winway?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the industry now since 2011. Finished my mechanical engineering degree from Loughborough University, and I think I'd done a couple of interviews across sort of other engineering sectors, and I found my first opportunity in construction at the time with an M&E contractor back then. And lucky enough for me, they were involved in the 2012 Olympics. And I'd grown up in East London, Leytonstone. So it was quite close to me in terms of proximity. So I got placed on site there in Stratford and got to see sort of the completion of the infrastructure there, but we were also there at the games, during the games in 2012, which was actually quite good. As the company had a maintenance contract as well during the games. So that was my starting phase into the industry. And I'd never heard about construction as the industry itself. It's hard to explain, I guess, once you're in the industry, that there are people that walk past the built environment, but they just never really see it. I started seeing cranes when I was working in construction, but they were just around me. I never saw them. And it's just something that I never caught. So that was my first experience into the sector. And then from there on, moving on to other parts in the sort of house building of the industry. So that was sort of my start there, David, and how I got into the industry.
So genuinely a case of, because you could see it in operation, you thought, actually, I want to be part of that.
Yeah, I think for me it was more, rather than seeing it in operation, what I'd studied, which was mechanical engineering, it didn't really suit me as a person. So I'd done some, sort of, we call it internships with the likes of Rolls-Royce, seen some stuff with, and sort of Triumph, National Grid and all that, which was more design engineering side of things. And that's not something that I really enjoyed doing. as me as a person. Whereas when I came into construction, there was a bit of a balance. So there was the technical things, but there was the people side of things where I could interact with people every day. There were so many different things every day I was experiencing. You can imagine on a building site, you meet all sorts of people, and I really found that interesting. Learning from people, interacting, and I think at the site level, I made friends really quickly on site. Even though at the time, I was quite shy coming in, but I had so many people, wanting to help me. So I think for me, that's what caught my attention with the industry, to say, with this industry, I can be very dynamic. I can speak to people, I can interact every day, and I can also do the sort of technical elements, and things are always changing. It's never the same environment, and there's a whole spectrum of people. I think for me, that was the thing that really got me to say, I actually like this industry. And it wasn't a situation where I said, I want to try another industry. For me, that was this is what I like, and I'll stay and sort of make it work.
And help other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to grasp the nettle straight from the off if we can about diversity, equity and inclusion.
Yeah.
How would you define that? What is it, do you think?
For me, coming into this space, I was also, learning about what this is, what's diversity, what's equity, what's inclusion. But I think at the center of it, people should see it as practice of how people can access spaces, how people can see role models that they can look up to, people feeling valued in where they are or where they're working, people feeling heard. I think at the bottom of everything that happens across the world, it's mostly people feeling like, am I seen, am I heard, from whichever way you're looking at. Us as an industry, people feeling like it's a space that they can also belong. I would say, just to sum it up in terms of, the diversity, the equity, the inclusion part, those are the underlying elements. And I'll also say it's not a competitive space. So it's not that when you're getting, when there's diversity, when there's inclusion, it should not be at the detriment of something else. It should be in the word. It should be inclusion. So inclusion shouldn't be about elements fighting each other. It should really be, and I think with how things happen in the world and how things are executed, it could end up being like almost like competitive forces fighting each other. But actually, it should be about inclusion at the very bottom of it, and that should be the underlying stream of, we want to include and not to exclude.
So because Donald Trump, I think, has described it as reverse discrimination.
Right.
Been caught up in the woke agenda and so become very political.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is that actually it's not, for me to win, you have to lose. It's a win-win.
You're absolutely right. And I think people also just got to be careful, especially, leaders out there running businesses and all that. Politics is a political game, yeah? And it comes and goes, it changes. And that's just the nature of politics, from time. Politicians, they lean on elements they think will leverage them support for different agenda. So it might be that if they want to introduce a completely different policy to young people, they'll give them free toys. And they might look like they love toys, but actually that's not the end goal. That's just leverage to win over certain people or this and that. So I don't think businesses should really be so much influenced by the political environment. However, politics, and as you know, for big business, or let's say the public sector, is a big part of big businesses, and how policies are shaped is also in line. So I think it's for businesses to really, so tread carefully. It shouldn't be something that's divisive, but I think what makes things divisive or politicians to play on the division is how things are executed. So we're in executing policies, and in the nature of things, some people feel like they're being excluded. That's what then attracts the politics to that, to say, I can take advantage of this. But the origins of it has been in how elements around inclusion or diversity are being executed. And I think that's what should really be corrected. But as businesses, it's all about the people that are working for the company. And I think businesses have to tread a fine line sometimes. And what's happened in America is, I guess, with the whole Donald Trump thing, I think it's not just an inclusion. It's on so many different things that we're saying, like tariffs and all this. I think it's on the extreme end, and it's putting a lot of the businesses in a very difficult space because some of them want to be inclusive, but they're being told they'll lose their contracts if they do that sort of stuff. So it's like, what do you do in that case? And try and have like a balancing effect, because if they lose the contracts, they won't have the people in the first place to employ. But I think the principles shouldn't really change with and business are I think they got to be careful, because it's like, how do you reverse that? Let's say if there's a change of government, are you going to go back to your people and say, well, we care now because there's a different government and you don't want to be there. So I think businesses should really, really think about the messaging of how things are and how things are being shaped. And I'm sure some already stuck to their guns in terms of weathering, riding out the storm and all that sort of stuff. But I think as an industry, as businesses, inclusion should not be about exclusion, and it's something that we should have and we should continue with, despite what happens out there and all the political influences.
So if we turn to the construction industry, I think more than 18% of the UK population is from the BAME community. Yeah. However, they're less than 7% of our workforce in construction or construction-related professions. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a number of factors, to be honest. I think the industry itself can do a lot more to just open up to wider society. So you probably see certain numbers around women, et cetera, as well. I think as an industry, it's such a people-ingrained industry. I think the leadership of the sector as well could be a bit more joined up, aligned, whichever way you want to put it. You can see it, and I'm not just talking about the industry people. I'm talking even from government level, where there's very focusing leadership to really address. I mean, we've had issues, for example, just kind of going off a tangent. We've had issues around mental health that's gone on for like a really long time. And I recall I was on a call with one of the leading non-construction industry body, and they were talking about mental health. They were talking about the NHS, and I said, look, when it comes to things like suicide, construction is 3 times more. Do you know that? And they were actually quite shocked. They didn't know about it, but they were on a call to address mental health across all industries, and they just didn't know that actually, in some aspects, you're barking in the wrong tree. Like, you probably should be addressing where it's the most affected, and then look at. So I guess it's the how the industry is represented out there. The people that are seen in this. So what I'm getting at here, David, is it's a number of issues of why that number is low, because that then translates to. So you could look in a simple way to say, just because there isn't any ethnic minority leaders and all that, but that's not the only reason. There are other mechanisms in there that are then leading to those outcomes of actually the reason there are a lot of ethnic minorities, because it could be for the fact that people from ethnic minority backgrounds just don't know about that sector to start with. It doesn't reach out to them. And then people coming in don't stay. They might be leaving. So it might not end up with, role models, people that can look up to. You could ask, parents that are in the industry to say, would you let your kid come into the sector, whatever their ethnicity is? And you get some answers, people be like, no, I wouldn't. And that's not an ethnic minority thing, that's just an industry-wide thing. So I think there are, different factors in there which then lead to the numbers being low and not being representative of the society.
Is that, but we use the same argument, it doesn't matter where the kid's from, parents discourage children from going into the industry, teachers discourage.
Right.
So that's the same across the board. Are there any unique things, do you think, which are preventing people from the BAME community coming into the industry?
Yeah, I think you could narrow it down to a few things. One of which would be people not knowing about the sector. Like I said at the start, I didn't know about the industry. And my dad is an engineer in maintenance, facilities management and all that. So it's not that I was actually quite close to the industry. I just didn't know about the construction side of it. So I think people knowing about the opportunities available within their own communities. I think when it comes to reward and salaries, we're actually quite high up there across all the sectors. So people are well paid within the sector, but people don't know about it. So I think that's one element of the education. But then some of the reasons why people wouldn't know about it is from where they're from. Perhaps there isn't any success stories of people that could say, I've come with the industry. So from where I'm from, people will be encouraged more to go into to be a doctor or a lawyer because they're the success stories people are seeing. So the other factor will be people, when they come into the industry, at times they don't make it, they don't progress. So they can come in, stay in the industry, not progressing, and then they end up leaving. So you're losing a lot of leaders, losing a lot of role models. And the reasons for that, there's quite a few of them, but it could be that it's such a people-oriented industry. So you end up with people that are in their groups and cliques, continuously working with people in their groups and cliques. And in a roundabout way, that was one of the reasons behind actually, creating a network to say we're such a people-oriented industry. So you need to know people as a way of solving. It might not be the perfect way to do it, but it's to say, if your network, that could help. So if that could be a second reason of why people are not exposed or come into the industry and do not know about it, because they know that the role models that they see themselves staying, and all that is just not there.
That's perfect, because I'm going to come on to the BPIC network in a moment. But before I do that, I just wanted to say, why would companies be interested in this? What are they missing out on by not being as diverse as they could be?
Some companies in some aspects could be missing nothing, right? And that's probably not like something that you hear out there, but they could just be missing something. But I think as you're growing your teams, your businesses and all that, I think there's a sense of belonging people also look at when they're joining business. It's for businesses that really want to grow, want to encourage their own innovation, and really want to progress with the way the world is progressing. I think that there's a lot of things that you could learn from having a mix of diverse teams. The most obvious was around innovation and people thinking differently and profits and all that sort of stuff. But that's an argument you put out there to say the reason it should be diverse and inclusive. But actually, the underlying reason for me personally should just be people feeling like they're welcome in your business and they can stay, and there's somewhere where there is access, because in that's where you get the talent. You get all the benefits, etc. But the underlying thing should be, would you not want your business to be a place where talent can thrive? People can come in. And when it talks, like I said, when we're talking about inclusion, we are focused on ethnic minority inclusion. But it doesn't mean your company should just focus on that. You should focus on everyone being included. So you don't want to make it divisive within your own business. So it should be an underlying theme of we're an inclusive business. So if you are lacking ethnic minorities, then you can make an effort on that. If you have people in your network that are probably, women, then that's an area you can address. If you have an older population of people in your business who are like, we want to be more flexible in our working, that's an area to focus. It should not be divisive. The underlying thing should be we're an inclusive organization that want to keep our people, that want to encourage good culture within our business, that want to encourage people thriving and people making it across, and that really should be a value that a company holds and genuinely holds.
So basically, it's just a good business. It makes good
business.
It makes
good business sense, and then that business sense translates into other outputs like your business growth, people retention, your creativity, etc., all growing. That's some of the benefits that you'd have from doing that. But the underlying theme should be the values and then the outcomes that you get from that.
So tell me a bit about BPIC. What is it, and who's it for? BP
Network, we started it just as a network out there to, like I said before, to try and get people access to say, look, if you feel like this is not your industry, actually, you might be wrong. It actually is your industry. You belong. And the fact that you're on your own, or you see people like yourselves in your business, doesn't mean you're the only one across the sector. So there is a network here that's to support you. And then on the other hand, if you're a non-ethnic minority and you feel like our industry should be inclusive and we should see and people from other backgrounds thrive and come into the industry, it's also your network. So the network itself is for everyone that believes our industry should be inclusive, regardless of their ethnicity. And that's really at the core of our network, to say the narrative of the built environment / construction, we can write it ourselves. There is in any walks of life, there's a big percentage of people that believe in doing the right thing, and, everyone having, good opportunity and all that. But typically those people never do anything about it because it might not directly affect their life. And for us, it's to say, let's put a good image to our sector rather than our sector being misrepresented out there. And there's a lot of people that actually, and that's how our network grew, with people saying, actually, this is what our industry is. Our industry is not people being out there whistling, when they're building sites. Our industry is not builders making noise at midnight and all that sort of stuff. Our industry is not bad practice, which you typically see as highlights, especially in media. They always talk about things when they've gone wrong, but actually no one is saying this whole city was been built the right way. Like things are very functional. All the skyscrapers you're seeing, all the engineering that you see is actually working. But what you see is always the negative things. So our network was set to say, we can actually paint a good image to what our industry is. Our industry is inclusive. Our industry is very supportive. Our industry wants people from all backgrounds to come in and thrive. And that's really what's at the core of BPIC network, to say that's the message we should be pushing out there. And it's for everyone, despite ethnicity, who really believes we can make a difference in our industry and have our industry also follow the trend of other industries, like, IT became tech, very attractive to young people. So many success stories. And I believe we can do the same thing with following the same narrative.
If I'm running a small business and I'm really, I'm don't know where I'm based, but I employ 5-10 people. Should I be involved in the network? And if so, how do I get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So the network itself, like if you're a 2-3-5-man band, you're probably on the face of it not going to be so diverse because, it's mom, dad, uncle, as a business. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not here to be pushing to say, do this, do that, do that. No. The whole point of it, what's underlying is we want to give access to our industry, we want to paint the right image to it. So as a small business, it's giving you the right tools to be inclusive and showing the spaces where you can go to access talent, to diversify your viewpoints on things and to really help our industry grow. So if you're a small business, when you're talking about the BP membership, for example, we have our small business membership, which really what we're doing is giving the assurance that, you've got the right things in place to reach a wider audience as a small business. Big businesses have got different sort of capabilities really, and we do a lot more with them. But it's, the underlying thing for us, for small businesses, if you really want to have an outlook there to say your business is inclusive, it's got the best practice in place, you've got a reach, that's what we do, and we're here to support that for the small businesses to really thrive within our sector.
So what sort of supporting things do you do for your members and the industry in general?
Yeah, so for the industry in general, starting with our membership. So companies are really looking at the best guide and best practice when it comes to strategies if you're looking to attract diverse talent, strategies on how to retain that talent when it comes to the cultural practices of a business. And from attracting people, we have we've got the network itself, so it's giving that access to people. It might be like jobs, etc. When within a business itself, how you can structure things which again have an impact mostly on retention and keeping people being valued. In some instances, because it's in the name, isn't it? It's ethnic minority. So you're going to end up with minorities within your business. Yeah. And sometimes not seeing someone like yourself can have an impact on a person. And it's like, how do you get around that? So it's that best practice that we provide. And then on the other hand, we've got engagements across the sector that we do. We do lots of events. We do a lot of events where the big and the small businesses can also meet each other and align with companies that have the same values. So if you're a small business, we have a lot of, large organizations that we work with. So we got something like, we've got a small business breakfast that we do. We have an award ceremony that we run each year at the end of the year. And we've got various networking events in the middle. And one thing that we have coming up now, only because we're growing and we're able to, we're launching a skills academy. This is the first time I'm saying it, by the way. Okay. So I like your podcast. And it's to do with the whole drive for construction skills lately, so that we can grow our workforce as an industry. And we're part and parcel of that now, where really we are partnering with training providers, so we can bring in people from our network, but we can also connect them to to the industry, so big and small business. And so on that space, we're looking at, because most businesses, especially small businesses, you want people to hit the ground running. People in the government is saying they're training people and all that sort of stuff, but small businesses don't have time to then train again. So we're looking at how we can get around that with the Skills Academy. So all those three aspects there, David, is how we the sort of work that we do with our members. And there is a team of 6, luckily enough now, where I don't have to run around everywhere.
Well, thank you for that exclusive. And you should be talking to the BESA Academy. I'm sure can help.
Oh, brilliant.
Promote.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Certainly around the course content, those kind of areas. You talked a bit about mentoring.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think is really important?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think mentoring is really important. I think with increased capabilities now, especially with the academy, we're looking to encompass that, where people that are coming in, they get the right skills or training. Let's say with BESA Academy, I'll be really happy to discuss that. And then they get the right training. However, they'll need a network to support them as well. In terms of staying in the sector, the one thing I benefited from is I got mentored by people, but it wasn't labeled mentoring. It's just people that really took their time with me to show me how things are done. And sometimes it can be quite difficult because the industry itself is people are really busy in what they're doing. You're always driven by a deadline somewhere. Or every time you come to work, there's a program on the wall telling you that you're behind. So you never have time for anyone, of which for me, that's the number one thing I really benefited from. People coming, really just give their time. And it's the small things. So that mentoring really goes a long way in terms of guiding people along their career, showing them what they can do, because you got so many different things. You got, lack of confidence, all that when you're coming in. But then there can be a different type of mentoring, which is more career coaching, where people sometimes are at the mid-level and they feel like they're hitting a ceiling. And it's like, how do you break through to the next level, getting senior? So it's an area that we work with and we collaborate with across the sector.
So final question on this section, that really is, it often comes up in sort of social value exercises as part of the tendering process. And I strongly believe that we kind of have an industry, there's a big difference between what you say you do and what you actually do. Do you see that there is a gap between what people say they do and actually do deliver? What are their outputs? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, and I think, like I was saying initially, the underlying factor is it should really be something that, to make it easy, that a business really believes in to start with, and that's your only because if you really think about it, if you're faking it rather than actually doing it, you're also just wasting your time. So you might as well use your resources properly, because what's the point of investing into something and then just going halfway? Because what will happen is we see it sometimes in the sector where companies, they would employ people to do this, but then they're just not empowered to do anything. So it's almost like you're actually wasting money on employing those people. And if someone was to look at, let's say an exec, maybe you're a chief exec, look at the business and say, well, what have you gotten from this? And there's nothing. So it might sound bad, but it's probably better off not doing anything to start with, because at the very start, you're actually wasting a lot of time and resource, and it's just better to go all in. In some cases, things are led by, from a client perspective. So companies feel like they have to kind of pretend they're doing it. But for me, I think the best approach is if you're doing it, even if you don't want to go all out, try and do the bare minimum properly, at least. So you can say, you know what, we're not doing everything, we're just doing this, but we're actually doing it properly. Otherwise, it end up being a waste of time for you and the business. So we do see it every now and then. And I think progressively, it's probably going to get less and less. I mean, you can never tell. But I think businesses should just have to commit to it or not commit to it. And the middle ground really benefits no one, you or the business. It should just be something that's a company value.
Well, Amos, I'm going to try and summarize now what we've discussed, right. And you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, Donald Trump has not killed diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's got life in it. It makes good business to be more diverse. You have a better company at the end of it. Yeah. You should get involved in the BPIC network, because you'll learn more about how to become a more diverse, therefore a better company. Yeah. And if you're going to do it, don't fake it, make it real.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you summarized it really well, and I'm really happy I came today.
Once again, Amos Simbo OBE, founder of BPIC Network and the Winway Group, thanks for joining us on Behind the Built Environment, and good luck at Windsor Castle when you get there.
Thank you so much, David. I really enjoyed the podcast, and I'm equally looking forward to working with the BESA Academy going forward.
And now on to the podcast news. Catch our on-demand BESA webinar featuring Amos Simbo, founder of the BPIC Network, as he explores how businesses can unlock growth by embracing inclusive practices, building a competitive advantage through diversity, strategies for winning business and attracting top talent, offers practical insights into creating diverse teams, improving representation, and leveraging inclusion as a business strength. Whether you're looking to attract new talent, win contracts, or drive innovation, this session is packed with valuable takeaways to help you lead with purpose and impact. Watch now at thebesa.com/webinars. And entries are now open for the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Award at the BESA Industry Awards 2025. This category celebrates individuals, teams, or organisations driving real change in building services, championing inclusion, breaking down barriers and creating a more diverse and equitable industry. If you're leading by example or know someone who is, now is the time to shine. Enter today via the BESA website and let's celebrate the people building a better future for everyone. And join us on the 19th of June for the BESA Clean Air Day Walk, a powerful event supporting the Ella Roberta Foundation, raising awareness about the dangers of air pollution. Whether you're strolling through the city or hiking the countryside, your steps can make a difference. Choosing from 2 inspiring walks, a London route starting at Ella's Memorial, exploring air quality through live data comparisons, sponsored by S&P UK, and led by the BESA IAQ Group. A Peak District walk on the 20th of June, led by the BESA Next Gen Group and sponsored by New Air, leads an energising and scenic trek up Mam Tor to show young professionals' commitment to cleaner air. Air pollution causes 43,000 UK deaths a year, so it's time to act. Walk with us, raise vital funds and help spread the word about indoor air quality and health. Sign up, sponsor or donate at thebesa.com/Clean Air Day, because every breath matters. So thank you for tuning in to Behind the Built Environment. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more in-depth conversations with industry leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your colleagues. Stay connected with BESA for the latest updates and insights into our industry. And until next time, I'm David Frise, and this is Behind the Built Environment. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Built Environment podcast from BESA. If you like what you heard today, then please follow and rate us on your favourite podcast app. Come and join us over on LinkedIn, BESA Group, and carry on the conversation. And if you want to find out more about joining the BESA community, then please visit thebesa.com to start your journey with us today.